the first chapter of this DVD on the modern, we're going to have a look at what's called the Austrian attack. And it starts like this. White going e4. Black plays g6. d4. Bishop g7. Knight c3. d6. And now we've reached like a standard setup, or the basic position of the modern. And here white plays f4. And this is a very critical line. For a long time I didn't consider it the most critical, but lately things have been developing in a direction where you really need to have some control of it. And I used to, in my book on the modern for quality chess, I recommended a6 here. And for the last 10 years, to and fro, I've been thinking maybe it's playable, maybe it's not, maybe it is, going back and forth like this. And lately I've come to the conclusion that the line that goes knight f3, b5, bishop d3, knight d7, and now a4. Already in the Modern Tiger I recommended sort of this line for white, but at the moment I find it very, very hard to come up with a good defense against this. And the point is that after b4, knight e2, the fact that the knight on c3 has moved to e2, it makes it possible for white to pamper the center. So when you play c5, the main idea of the modern basically is that you want to get a Sicilian structure to exchange this c pawn for white's d pawn when we have a kind of a dragon position where but we don't have to do all the theory. But in this position, when I go c5, white plays c3, and it's almost impossible to break down the white center without giving white too much space. And so the dynamic possibilities that are like the basic, or the ground on which the modern rests, or its soundness, it's been compromised here. So I've been trying to mend this variation, and if the viewer wants to have a shot at it themselves, I completely understand that. But for the moment I've given up on it, so I will not recommend. I haven't played it for the last year, and I'm a bit scared of this line basically, because white gets very easy play, and black doesn't get that kind of dynamics that you want in the modern.
So this is the reason why, if we just go back, that you're not recommending a6 as the main option.
Exactly.
Against an immediate f4.
Against an immediate f4, because there are positions where if we have this position, the thing is that when white puts the knights on f3 and c3 and bishop on d3, this is like a optimal setup. Sorry, black has played b5 here. So, and it basically means that there has been no, white hasn't been compromised to do any move that's not the absolutely best move here. Whereas later on we will see in the flexible dragon variation, there is a bishop on e3, and this changes a lot, because it means later on that white's most dangerous idea in these positions is to play e5. But as soon as a bishop is on e3, it means that the knight can get to either f5, g4, or d5 and threaten the bishop. And that basically wins a tempi for black. And that tempi is very important. It's the difference between having a variation where you're really suffering and a variation where you're absolutely fine.
So really, if I was playing white,
yeah,
and I was facing a player like you, Tiger,
yeah,
and I knew that you were maybe going to play a6,
yes,
I kind of expect this against you, but this is the setup that white should play in your opinion.
Yes, absolutely, and partly because it's very good, but most of all because you basically get black out of the dynamical kind of chess that you're looking for.
Position
as black.
You want, yeah. And later on, you'll obviously show us what you're going to recommend now as the best line very quickly. Instead of a6, you just want to tell us what your recommendation is.
Yes, and then we have this position. So I recommend you to go over into the perk, basically. And the perk and modern are related openings, and basically the modern, you could say that the strategical idea of the modern is to swap the c pawn for the d pawn and get the Sicilian structure, whereas in the perk the idea is rather to play some kind of Ruy Lopez structure where you have a bishop on g7 rather early, Because we all know that in Ruy Lopez sometimes you play e5, you have a bishop on e7, and then later on you play rook e8, bishop f8, you go with the bishop to g7, and you can basically get that kind of setup with a few extra tempis. That's at least the theory, sort of.
So we will come then. The move here will be knight to f6, which is the main move. And the other option, if I seem to remember from memory, is black trying to play c6. But also you have your doubts about this move.
I really do have my doubts about it, because from a general point, if you're playing c6 in combination with a b5 move, I mean, if you compare this position with the one where you played a6, it means you want to play c5. This is black's counterplay. So if you want to play c5 here, you either need to back up this pawn first, or you need to move it forward. And like I say, in a sense, if you played with c6, it's more logical to push this one. Whereas if you played a6, you don't want to do it unless you're provoked, unless white plays a4.
So really, the c6 line, if we sort of sum up, is maybe a bit too slow in your eyes.
It's less flexible in a sense, and also if white plays a move like a4 against c6, you have to play lines with d5.
Right. These lead to very closed positions with e5, and we want to maybe stay away from that because we want some excitement.
Exactly, we want dynamics and messages. That's what I'm looking. That's why I play the modern
attacking chess.
Attacking chess.
This is why I'm so fascinated to get into this.
Because basically you're leaving you don't clarify anything.
Yeah.
You're just leaving the center is stewing.
Yes.
Certainly, it's bubbling, and at any moment you might like put the last piece of spice into it and decide what kind of center you want. You might play f5, you might play e5, you might play d5, you might play c5. There's so many ways that white needs to constantly keep check of what black is going to do next. So it's like.
Brilliant. So really,
and another line. I mean, it's usual for black to play c6, and then in these kind of positions play d5, and then when white plays e5, black tries to play h5 and bishop g4 and occupy the white squares on the king side. This line used to be very nice. I played it a lot myself, but lately. The latest development, I think that white has a very easy way to get an advantage there, and the bishop on g7 is basically misplaced.
Sure.
So, if you are to play lines with c6, this is one of a few times where, if we go back to the beginning here, if you play e4, I play g6, d4. It's actually better to play d6 here, and now on knight c3. Play c6, and you play f4.
Sure.
And now I play d5, and actually lost the tempo here compared to bishop g7.
But your bishop is going to be better on f8, I'm assuming.
Yes, it is.
You don't want to put it on g7.
Exactly. I want to swap this guy for a knight or something on f3, and then I later, when white has played e5, and then I will have a bishop on a diagonal where it's actually doing something, on a French diagonal.
Okay. To sum up then, just this little introduction to the Austrian attack, the way you explained it, we are going to be concentrating on the main poet positions with knight f6 because you believe, like sincerely, this is the strongest way to play.
Yes,
and
I
the
do.
soundest.
Yes.
The other tips I kind of got from this, if you do go a6, white goes to this simple development with his light square bishop, and when you go b5, he should go a4 so that he can play the c3 move.
Yes.
And c6 leads to quite closed positions. And I guess now we'll have a look at a couple of games where you can demonstrate these points.
Yeah, we will have a look at a couple of games that are very critical to the line.